grocers that are adopting modern retail technology are using technology to increase their margin in a variety of different places. And there are many different areas to capture a little bit more margin. It just takes kind of a savvy operator that might see the value of this technology and see the ROI that it could bring to the table for them.
Hello, I'm John Zimmerman, and welcome to Shelf Confidence, a podcast brought to you by the Pennsylvania Food Merchants Association that focuses on the trends and innovations in the food and beverage industry. Today, we're talking about retail technology and what modernization really looks like for small and mid-sized operators. From point-of-sale systems to self-checkout to electronic shelf labels, robotics, data, store operations, retailers are hearing about all kinds of tools these days. Joining us is Farrell McKenna, president of Ravyx. Farrell brings a practical perspective on how retailers can cut through the noise, make smarter technology decisions, and prepare for the future without losing sight of the customer experience. Welcome to the show, Farrell. How are you doing this morning?
Very good, John. Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here today.
Yeah, looking forward to this conversation. Technology is obviously top of mind all the time, especially these days. So having these conversations is really important. I'd love to dive right in and hear a little bit about you and the genesis of Ravyx and where this all came from.
Ravyx is a retail technology provider that's been around for 59 years now, going on 60 years old. And we're really born out of two companies coming together, formerly STCR and SIR Solutions. So in 2025, we had a merger between those two companies. And just about exactly 1 year ago, we rebranded as Ravyx. So today we're supporting 3,500 supermarkets all across North America. So a big presence in Canada, a big presence in the United States, as well as the Caribbean. And we're supporting 3,500 rooftops today, mainly supermarkets from small, medium businesses, independent supermarkets, all the way up to regional chains. And we're providing point of sale solutions, electronic shelf label solutions, and a variety of other third-party integrations and other cutting-edge data-related technologies to supermarkets to help them remain on the cutting edge and compete with some of the bigger chains that are out there in North America.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw that when doing my homework for this. So you guys merged with a Canadian company. Does that change anything with regards to how you approach any of this, business-wise or technology-wise?
Well, it's interesting because our Canadian business, SIR Solutions, they sold basically the same products that STCR sold in the United States. We're both resellers of lock software, partners with Toshiba, partners with Vusion for electronic shelf labels. So we're selling a lot of the same products. The only difference was really the customer segment that we catered to. In Canada, we were a little more oriented around our enterprise customers. So some regional and really national supermarkets that have hundreds of locations. And in the US, historically, we focused a little bit more around the SMB. We did also cater to some enterprise clients. But I think, if anything, it increased our ability to cater to larger enterprise customers and bring that experience and know-how to the United States. But nonetheless, it's still the supermarket industry and very similar product set. It's just a little bit different in how you go about implementing technology in that customer segment versus the SMB customer segment.
So I'd love to set the stage here a little bit. If you could kind of explain to me, what does modern retail technology look like for mid and level operators like that? It's such a broad term.
Modern technology, sometimes we call, say, a supermarket that likes to do things a traditional, relatively simple way. You might think of them as a scan and bag grocer, someone who wants to run transactions and move product from the store, from the shelf, out to the customer's car, right? Then I think modern retail technology is it's a supermarket that realizes that grocery is a pretty thin margin business, and there are some ways that you can use technology to expand your margins. So you may look at places like the back room, you may look at the shelf edge, you may look at some other interesting technology at the point of sale that will allow you to expand your margins from your typical, say, 2 or 3%, and maybe lead the industry a little bit. So just to expand on a couple of those, you've got some supermarkets that are able to adapt, say, an application, a point of sale, or an operating system that allows you to extend your technology stack to integrate to some of these innovative third parties that are out there, to do things like automating your accounts payable at the back door, to improve your DSD and receiving process, where you can capture some discrepancies and expand some margin in the back room before it even hits your shelf. You could look at the shelf edge, leveraging technology such as electronic shelf labels that allow you to cut some of your labor cost. If you're running a print batch, for example, once a month or every couple of weeks, with that comes a lot of labor to hang the tags, make sure that they're correct. You're doing audits in the aisle and things like this. With electronic shelf labels, it's relatively seamless. Any updates you're making in the back office to pricing will end up at the shelf edge within a matter of seconds. So it erases a lot of that labor cost that you might have to maintain your pricing, which is very timely right now as pricing is fluctuating consistently within the supermarket space over the past year or 2 years due to tariffs and other things. So that is one area where we're seeing a lot of interest for a grocer that's adopting modern technology. And then lastly, you have some other technologies that are available at the point of sale and the self-checkout where you're able to monitor shrink in a more intelligent way. So things like loss prevention cameras, produce recognition cameras can detect what your customers are putting on the self-checkout or the point of sale. And it speeds up the transaction time. And it may even prevent some theft and shrink that you're seeing at the front end, which will increase your margin. So kind of in a nutshell, I think grocers that are adopting modern retail technology are using technology to increase their margin in a variety of different places. And there are many different areas to capture a little bit more margin. It just takes kind of a savvy operator that might see the value of this technology and see the ROI that it could bring to the table for them.
Got to have a savvy operator. Come on, man. Yeah, always.
Exactly. That's what it takes, right?
I think so. But yeah, so you talked about the cameras. I'm always fascinated by this. Like these cameras, like obviously like the first thing everyone thinks about is obviously loss prevention. You think of security cameras. But you touched on it a little bit with the product camera, which I find fascinating. It's like, so I guess that's the cameras that scan the shelves and look to see what's stocked and what's not and how that integrates. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, they have that as well.
Okay.
But the one I was referring to, for example, in the self-checkout, if you shop for, say, an organic apple versus a regular apple, there are cameras embedded in self-checkouts today
It sees it. Okay. Yeah.
Hey, I see you've got an organic Fuji apple there. Is that correct? Yes. So you never even have to put in a PLU code.
I've experienced this. Yes.
Exactly. So it saves time for the consumer, and you capture a little bit of margin. Say for someone, organic apple is a little more expensive than a regular apple. You're able to correct that price at the point of sale or the self-checkout.
It's truly remarkable. Like, this technology has just like made so many leaps and bounds in just literally like the last 18 months. It is quite, it's impressive, but also kind of a little scary in some ways, like what you can monitor and track data wise with some of this stuff.
And it's actually insane if you think about where it's going to be. I think if you look under the hood at a place like Walmart or Kroger, the things that they're experimenting with, they're really at the bleeding edge because their R&D budget is leaps and bounds above what, say, an independent or regional could invest in these things. Yeah, and then we see that some of the technology that's really won the day there, it'll trickle down to the tier 2, tier 3 independent space several years later. So I've seen that trend for many years now, looking back.
No, it's just, man, I imagine their R&D budget probably outstrips some nation states, I would imagine, in some capacity.
100%. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And is there any of that technology, not to pull this thread too far, but is there any of that technology that kind of stands out to you that you just find interesting that might be, and I know I always save these questions for the end, but since we're talking about, I'm curious, any of that technology coming down the pike that you find interesting that we should keep an eye out for?
Walmart made a big splashy change with rolling out electronic shelf labels about 2 years ago, I think. Okay. And the model of electronic shelf label that they put in was novel and interesting in that it removes the battery from the electronic shelf label and puts the battery in the rail. So for many different reasons, it kind of reduces the cost of ownership on that, and it may squeeze a little bit of longevity out of the labels themselves. So Walmart's done a really good job at analyzing this from many different angles, and they're really putting the best of breed out there at the shelf edge. And then I think some things that they're doing around the warehouse, leveraging that same technology, tracking things like expiration dates, inventory, tying it all into their ERP and ordering systems. There's some regional grocers that are doing some similar things out there, but just the way that they're able to leverage some of those technologies and just do it at such a scale is pretty interesting. And there's a lot that we don't know and a lot that we don't see that's behind the hood at a place like Walmart, that'll come out in a few years.
No doubt. So, so the electronic shelf labels, like my first thought on that would be, and I've seen these in the field, but like my first instinct was like, well, those must be QR codes, but obviously it's more than that. Can you explain a little of the tech on that?
You could think of it as a replacement for your paper tag, right? So the paper tag is static. Once you print it, it's got the price on it, and that's what it's going to be until the next time you raise your prices. And that price raise could come from, the cost has gone up on that particular good from your vendor, and you need to maintain a certain margin in your store. So in order for you to reflect that new price, you literally have to print a new batch of labels, and you have to get your staff to go out there and hang them throughout the store. Yeah. So instead of that sort of antiquated process, and mind you, almost every supermarket's doing it this way still to this day. There's a small percentage that have shifted away from that operating model. Electronic shelf labels, you put them in. There's a rail where they clip into. They have a battery attached to it, and they operate via Wi-Fi from your store. You put Wi-Fi access points throughout your store, and the same price changes you make in your back office. Instead of sending them to a label batch to print out and hang for your staff to hang on the shelf, it'll literally go through Wi-Fi access points and hit each of those tags throughout the store. Instead of printing to a label, it just goes directly to the tags themselves.
So What do you think operators should pay attention to with all this stuff? What do you think they should be ignoring? Obviously, there's a lot that we could be doing, but there's a lot of stuff out there that maybe we don't need to pay as much attention to. What do you think?
In my opinion, my advice to, say customers that I talk to or my team talks to, it's all about expanding your margin. So anything that you could do that'll move the needle from a margin perspective, that saves labor, that saves time, that provides a little bit of agility within the store. Those are things that you should pay attention to. If you're looking at things that are buzzwords for the sake of buzzwords, it looks cool and interesting, I would say those are things, if you can't attach an ROI to it, you may want to reconsider, or you may want to pause on that until there's an ROI that can be proven. Put together a model in a spreadsheet and really make sure it makes sense from a financial standpoint.
Makes it money talks, right?
100%. And then the other thing I would say is pay attention to your systems, that you have a operating core system that is able to adapt with the times. So if it's a system, say you're in a closed box, you could think of some things like some systems like a Apple ecosystem, where you're in a closed system, right? So that has its pros and cons. But if you look at your core system and you're able to do extensions out of that system, so as new third parties are coming into that can offer you ways to capture more margin or save labor, you really want to have a foundation that allows you to easily integrate to other applications. But you may be impeded by your system's ability to actually integrate to them. So that's something that's really important to take a hard look at right now.
Gadgets and the gizmos on the network are not able to talk to each other and integrate. I imagine you're going to run into some problems, I would imagine, to say the least. For a store that's been doing things the same way for many, possibly many generations, what usually pushes them to make that final change? I imagine it's ROI, but I imagine there's other factors in that as well.
Yeah, there are lots of things. So, we deal with thousands of supermarkets across North America. So we have a really good lens into what brings about change for these businesses. And a lot are family owned, right? So I see a big, something that prompts change quite a bit is you have a family that's running a business for a long time, and it's time to have a changing of the guard. So say the mom or the dad, they're ready to spend a little bit more time in the Caribbean, right? They want to kind of exit this business after having worked in it for 40 or 50 years.
Sounds
and
nice.
the next generation comes in, right? So the next generation may have an interest in some of these new technologies that are out there. They've been attending trade shows or food shows for the last 10 years. They've talked to technology providers that want to introduce some new cutting edge things into their store. And it may be time to run things their way, right? And try some things new, right? Number two could be you have a competitor that comes into the area. Maybe it's one of those chains that we mentioned before. Maybe it's a regional operator that's leveraging lots of new bells and whistles, and say your customers were curious and they shopped there one time and they had an interest in their self-checkout. They had an interest in the cool technology that they're using. Maybe they've got a robot that's roaming the store, and those same customers come back to your store and start mentioning what they saw at the new operator down the street. And then probably lastly, I would say from a financial standpoint, recently we had a lot of impact on tariffs or inflation in the past 2 years. So just keeping up with the ever-changing, the cost of eggs or milk or other commodities that are just constantly coming back and forth, especially if you've got a lot of items that are being imported from overseas, and just finding an easier way to manage all those changes. Those three things probably come to mind for me.
So generational change, ROI, and just general competition and capitalism. It sounds like those.
Correct.
Yeah, it makes
exactly.
So we're talking about all this technology. I gotta ask, what piece of store technology do you think would make the best sci-fi movie villain? What do you think?
Sci-fi movie villain.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's got to be the robot, right? The robot
Right.
that goes around the store. I mean, there are a lot of use cases for that.
Sure.
I've seen ones that detect hazards in the store for spills. And then you've got checking for out of stock and price accuracy. Those are all really cool, valuable things. But, if you're asking about a movie villain, I could think of just a robot. There could be a lot of things that could come from that, right?
I would imagine Skynet would love to get their fingers into that during the uprising.
Yeah.
I'd imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I ended up watching a whole video about the logistics of Skynet the other night. Whole other topic. But anyway, self-checkout continues to be a major topic for the food and beverage industry. What are retailers trying to solve when they add or expand their self-checkout?
A lot of customers just like shopping that way. And it's really across all demographics, right? So I'm a millennial. I love to shop that way. At the same time, I have 4 kids, 4 very young kids, right? So it's not always feasible to shop within the self-checkout because you might have a big shopping cart that you want to check out, right? So having the option to have self-checkout optionality for your customers is very, very important. Some people, some demographics will always shop within the self-checkout. They like the ease of use. They like how it's frictionless. They don't want to have an interaction with another person. They want to keep their AirPods in, listen to a podcast or listen to some music and just kind of get out there,
Guilty.
Yeah. So there's that. Customers like doing it that way. And then also you've got the labor savings aspect. So it takes fewer cashiers or shopper assistants to man those self-checkouts compared to a traditional lane. And that's another big reason why people can consider adding self-checkout to their stores. So
you think if those machines, those self-checkout machines could complain about anything, what do you think they complain about?
Oh, they're definitely going to complain that you missed scanning an item and you put it right on the weighing item, right? Because guilty as well. Like when you're scanning, see if you've got a decent sized basket, often you're getting some intervention that says, hey, it looks like you missed that item, or make sure you took everything out of your cart. It's always prompting, there's communication between the shopper and the self-checkout.
We kind of touched on robots a few times here a little bit.
Yeah.
And obviously we talked about some of the use cases of these things, but where would you like to see this technology go? In your mind's eye, where would you love to see this technology get to a place where you can I don't want to say have fun with it, but use it in some more creative ways?
Where could robots enhance the store experience? Yeah. Again, I got to think of areas that allow a supermarket to capture a little more margin. So maybe anything in the back room, like receiving. If you've got a robot that can receive product, ensure it's scanned properly, you're receiving all the inventory, and it's able to check for price accuracy, like what you agreed to pay for is what you're receiving in the back end. If it could do all of those things and depalletize and unload boxes, that would be pretty cool. Another area could be, back in the day, going to the supermarket, you might have a cart, a kid that bags your stuff and will bring it out to the car with you. So I think handy. As the cost of labor went up, I think that became less common. I don't see it as much in supermarkets, but that might be a nice thing to bring back. Just
especially with an aging population.
That might be cool because it provides a level of customer service. It's kind of hearkening back to, say, when that was common 10, 20 years ago. And it's fixed cost of labor, right? You pay for the CapEx, you pay for the robot once, and it's providing that service continually. That's a nice ROI because you're not paying for every hour that it's working,
Makes sense.
So those kind of come to mind for me as areas of interest maybe for robotics.
That's interesting. Yeah, part of me, I think I use ChatGPT and some of these AI services to help me build what am I going to go grocery shopping for? Because it can scan ahead. I can think of calorie counts and stuff. I wonder if there's any opportunities for integration with that kind of stuff. You're talking to your grocery store cart a little bit about well, instead of this food, maybe I do that food. I know we do a lot of stuff on our cell phones these days. It might be interesting to build that into the robotic cart. I don't know.
Yeah, I think some of that stuff, it sounds very futuristic, but I don't think
it's futuristic anymore.
No, it's not. There are companies out there working on those exact same things right now, to say if you've got your shopping list, it may be able to reorient that list based on efficiency around the store.
There you go. Because it would know in the store where its items are versus because online you're going to find the price and stuff, maybe not what shelf and bay it's in,
Exactly. I mean, different people make their shopping list differently. Some people just randomly put them in order or what they need, right? Some people put it in order of how you shop the store as you visualize yourself walking through the store. But with that plus planogram compliance, maybe reorienting that shopping list around, okay, the second you enter, this is here on your left, and really just guiding you through the store. Another area of AI interest that I think some folks are working on that might be interesting is just having avatars in the store. So you have a QR code. You've got your phone, you scan, you say, I'd like to make fettuccine Alfredo tonight. I didn't come in with a shopping list. I wasn't prepared for this, but can you help me with this? right?
Yeah.
So it'll take the recipe, it'll give you a recipe, but then just tell you exactly where to shop for the ingredients that you need, organic, non-organic, store brand, not store brand, things like this, and just guide you through the store for that to fulfill that journey. I think that's coming pretty quickly.
We're almost there now. I mean, a lot of these LLMs are practically doing that. Maybe not
Yeah,
exactly like this, but it's getting us to the 85% mark of what we just described, it feels like, in a lot of ways. Um,
exactly. And even on the e-commerce side, some folks are doing the same thing. You haven't put thought into all the ingredients that you need, but you might go into your e-commerce dashboard and say, hey, what would you like to make tonight? Fettuccine Alfredo. And it could do the same thing. Ring up all the things that you want. It'll place it in your cart and you just have to place the order and then it'll come to you.
just
So
imagining like how long until you just take a picture of like your actual like pantry and be like, make me dinner, fill in the blank, what's expired. Like just what they're doing with
right,
the robots in the store almost in a lot of ways. Just,
exactly.
I don't know, the
No, if we
brave
did
new
this
world we
show in a
live in.
year, if we did
What's
this
that?
show 1 year from now, I'm
Oh,
sure we would be, some of that stuff would be reality at that point.
I know, right? It's
Yeah,
crazy what this technology is going. I'm scared, but also like very, very curious. Like, where are we going with all this?
same.
We're talking about all the cool stuff here, but like, what are the mistakes that retailers are sometimes making with this technology? We're talking about all the good stuff, but there are definitely some pitfalls that I'm sure people fall into on a regular basis.
Yes. So a few things. And I think it comes down to just plain old communication. And the communication is part of change management, right? So I think with anything, any big change in a store, whether you're changing wholesalers, you're changing technology systems, you're adding new technology, like such as self-checkout or ESLs. Um, I think it's important to communicate to all levels of management within the store. You've got the scanning coordinators, you've got the front end management, you've got the owner operator, you've got the accounting office, all these different elements of the store, whether it's a single store or multi-store. They should all be in alignment on why you're making the change. And then number two is the mistake would be believing that just by adding some new things, some new technologies, new layers of technology, or adding a new vendor or something, it's all just going to work, right?
Oh, solve everything. One vendor solves all your
Yeah.
problems, right? Yeah.
Yep. Just put it in and then, all right, we can all go home, right?
Magic. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's key is it doesn't work that way. If it's your system and you're investing in it, ultimately it's your business. So you have to have a stake in its success and you have to actively maintain that. So it's really not a set it or forget it thing. For example, you put in self-checkout, you put in ESLs, you put in a more traditional advanced point of sale system or any other really nice third-party tool. It needs active maintenance, active management. Things will come up, things won't be on file, things will be incorrect. It's important to actively maintain your system and check on it. That's not to take away from the ROI, because I think you'll actually get more ROI out of it if you're actively monitoring and maintaining things and taking ownership of the systems that you're purchasing and not hoping that it's all just going to take care of all your problems.
No, the
So I
set
think
it and
that's a
forget it
mistake.
thing. Yeah, because there is that like urge, like I have done the thing is done, it will sail on into victory forever. And that's not how anything ever in human history is like ever worked. I even think of like the AI that's going on like today. Like we think of these AI systems as like the end all be all solution, but they're all post-trained. It's like the part of the story that like gets lost in the sauce here to the base consumer is that like all of these AI models are on the back end are getting regularly trained by people in other rooms to stay current with what the world is. Because like,
Yes.
don't set it
Yeah. I
and
mean,
forget it.
right. No, AI is a good example as well. Like for anyone who spends a lot of time dabbling with it, experimenting with it, there's a great saying, trust but verify, right?
Oh yeah.
So whatever you've got to verify every bit of information, all the outputs and things like that. It may not be at a point where you can trust and not verify. It may be a
Oh no,
little
I
bit
would never. I run
off
into
in
problems
that.
all the time just trying to cross-reference spreadsheets with some of these AI tools. Like it is, I'm just doing it to like cross-reference social media stuff. Load. If you're actually like trying to cross-reference like inventory with like real dollars, that could be a
Yes,
real. You could really screw that up.
correct. So I think at the underlying core, you need to be a sharp, savvy operator that questions things. Be embracing of new technologies, absolutely, but trust but verify. Always maintain and always inspect and always ensure that you're getting the results that you're expecting from your systems, whether it's AI or any other technology. I think that's a very important takeaway.
Yeah, not believing that just because it's in the computer is just going to be perfect, which I think is something we work with computers and like, oh, well, the calculator is always correct. Why would I double check the calculator? But it's like it's not a calculator. This is way more involved. Like you get, yeah,
It's yeah, it's different.
it is. So, Yeah, so we kind of touched on this in the last question, but I wanted to just dive a little deeper. So, like, what does a good technology rollout look like from an employee side? You kind of touched on this already, but I want to drill a little
Mhm.
deeper into that because, like, there has to be like obviously employee buy-in. There needs to be buy-in from investors, from customers. It can't just be a top-down thing. I don't mean to answer the question for you, but I would love to
Yeah,
get your
yeah.
feedback on that.
Yeah, no, you raise a bunch of great points. I think it's, number one, like buy-in from all layers of management and the frontline staff. This is why we're doing the thing that we're doing. This is the change that we're doing. That's number one. Number two is communicate the timeline of events around the change. This is the date when we signed up. This is the date when it's going live. Prior to then, we're going to train you for this number of weeks in anticipation of go live. And then after go live, this is what you do when you run into issues. So you should have a FAQ, standard operating procedure, a person totally responsible for those issues when you call them. And then training, which I just touched on, super important. So you can't really put something new in there and not have not done the work to train your staff to run it efficiently and where to go when there are issues. That would not be a successful implementation of new systems or new technology.
Yeah.
I think spending a little time in the system, you've got maybe structured training with like an actual advisor or consultant, or you've got videos or a combination of the two that train you on how to use the system. And then importantly, kind of what you call like a sandbox or a playground, a place where your team can actually make mistakes and they can see how things work in reality within the system. And then they can ask questions. So have the opportunity to ask questions during your training. And then post training, post live, have a place that you can call if there are issues. It's all communication starting from the beginning, why we're doing this, when we're doing this, and then training about how everything works. I think that's the gold standard, like best practice and how to do change management.
Yeah, communication is key, right? If you're not
And
talking with
everything.
everybody, customers and staff, then you're not getting the feedback you need. It's not, to your point, not gonna be successful. Like you're running for problems.
Exactly.
So yeah, and to your point, I love a good how-to video. They are super handy. I am in YouTube way too much. Just throwing that out there. So you think if these robots could gossip around their, proverbial robot water cooler oil tank? I don't know. What do you think
Yeah.
they'd be gossiping about? Probably talking about us. I don't know.
They would definitely talk about us. That's 100% true. I would think, one pet peeve I would have is, if a customer picks up, say, a bag of Fritos or a can of salsa, and then later decide that they don't want it and they put it somewhere else in the store.
That'll
And
probably
it's
drive you nuts. Yeah.
right, I'm sure, because it'll detect that shouldn't be there, and flag to someone, and then it prompts someone to have to bring that to another part of the store.
Or it sends a robot over that's grumbling the whole way and then puts it back. They add
Exactly.
like personality of the robots, and the robot's got like a bad attitude or something. That'd be funny. But
So I don't know if you've seen this. There's some grocers that have adopted that type of robotic technology. They put eyes on it and
I've
they
seen
give it a
some of
name.
this. Yeah.
Usually, yeah, it humanizes the whole.
I was just thinking of that silly episode of Babylon 5 where the station gets the AI and Garibaldi shoots the interface at the end because he's tired of the attitude from the AI. I don't know. I'm going down the
Yeah.
nerd rabbit hole. I have my final question to ask you. I pretty much ask everyone is like, let's look into our crystal balls here a little bit
Sure.
and just tell me the future of modern technology in retail and what operators should be paying attention to over the next few years.
I see the future as being a really technology-enabled supermarket that is focused very deeply on expanding their margins beyond what has been the average low single-digit, say, call it 2 to 4% net profit margin. So leveraging technologies in the back office, within the store, at the front end, to expand their margins. So via smart technology investments, that's in automation in the back room with invoice and receiving. That's electronic shelf labels all around the store, allowing you to be nimble and make adjustments as your vendors are raising cost. Not having to eat that margin in real time, but rather adjusting your prices in real time. And then lastly, innovations at the self checkout and the point of sale that allow you to monitor shrink and also increase throughput and make for a faster transaction at the front end. All of those things in tandem make for the grocery store of the future. And then lastly, I would just say having a system that allows you to extend and be open to new things as they come about, because we're in the fastest round of technology innovation in the retail space that I could remember. It's changing every month, every quarter. So having a system that allows you to integrate to new entrants in the market easily, maybe it's an extendable application or API based application to allow you to integrate to those new things that are coming to the market to capture more margin. I think that's the grocer of the future.
Well, fantastic. Well, this is a great conversation. Big thanks to Farrell McKenna, president of Ravyx, for joining us today and sharing his insights on retail technology, modernization, and how small and mid-sized operators can make smart decisions without getting lost in the noise. If you're a retailer looking to learn more about Ravyx, please visit their website at ravyx.com. Thank you for tuning into Shelf Confidence. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to smash the subscribe button, share, or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening. Until next time, I'm John Zimmerman, and this is Shelf Confidence.